What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. Hope you guys are doing well out there. I got a question for you guys. How many of you guys feel like you've been scammed? How many of you guys feel like you've been, that you've been gotten over on? I mean, for me, I felt this way for a while, for a long time. We're taught to go to school, get a good education so you can get a good job, and unfortunately, this is pretty much the end of the instructions that we're given. Now, I don't know what your goals are. I don't know what your hopes and your dreams are. But for me, I reached a point in my life where I realized that time freedom and financial freedom was very important to me. Being able to spend time with my family, with my loved ones, spending time doing the things that I like to do, and the only way that this would be possible is if I had made certain decisions in my life. Now, thankfully, I came to this realization early enough. But one of the things that I realized that most people are still doing today, it's a mistake that I was doing for a number of years. I was working my 9 to 5, living paycheck to paycheck, paying all these different credit cards, Visa, MasterCard, American Express. I had a Discover card. I had a Macy's card. I had all sorts of different store cards. I never had a Home Depot or Lowe's card, but you get the picture. Never had a Walmart card. But the thing is I spent a lot of money on interest. And as you guys know, the Federal Reserve has been raising interest rates very, very aggressively for the last 18, 20 months. And anyone carrying any kind of high interest credit card debt, any American nowadays realizes that the Fed is raising their cost of living through their manipulation of the interest rates. Now, it seems like the Fed may actually be slowing down, but the simple fact of the matter is that everything is tremendously more expensive today than it once was. If you couple that with the fact that if you're like me, most Americans are carrying credit card debt for items that were not even necessities. I was so busy spending 40, 50, 60 hours a week working to generate an income only to make other companies rich. I didn't realize it, but all of my efforts were being wasted and diluted because I was so busy working to make other companies rich. And I'm not saying that, my 9 to 5 job, that there's anything wrong with it. And in fact, a 9 to 5 job is what propelled the opportunities that I was able to partake on later in life. Now, when you're hired as an employee, the only reason why the employer would hire an employee is because the employer knows how to take the work output, take the work effort from the employee, and multiply the value of that effort. Because otherwise, hiring an employee would just be purely an expense for the business. But instead, if the employer understands the value of the employee, he can take an employee, hire them for, say, $20 an hour, $40,000, $50,000 a year. But if the employer knows how to take that $20 per hour employee and sell the output from that employee to their prospective customers for, say, $60, $80 an hour, or take that $50,000 a year salary employee and basically sell their output for, say, $150,000, $200,000 a year, then it's totally worth it to hire. And this is what employees do. This is what employers do. This is why they hire. Here's the thing that most people don't understand, though. Most people are being advertised to every waking moment of their lives. Every waking moment of their lives. Now, I grew up, when the weekend came, now it's time to kick back, hang out with your friends, go to the movies, go to the mall, yada, yada, yada. I don't want to say all, but 95% of the activities that took place over the weekend were not propelling me forward financially. And these activities over the weekend were so detrimental to me financially. And you guys can drop me some comments down below if you've fallen victim to this, but weekend would come, I'd be blowing money in the restaurants. Meanwhile, I'm carrying credit card debt, high interest credit card debt. So, if I'm carrying credit card debt that I couldn't afford to pay off at the time, but I'm going out to dinner, name your favorite restaurant, ordering appetizers, drinks, and whatnot, only to put these dinners on credit card so that I could later pay interest on it. So I found myself making all of these other companies rich. Meanwhile, I stayed broke. Right? What kind of car was I driving? Lexus, BMW, all sorts of cars that I couldn't afford to drive at the time. But thanks to companies like Bank of America, Chase, Wells Fargo, Citibank, they loaned me the money to afford these luxury vehicles that I could not afford. And I was so happy, the driving experience of these automobiles is just phenomenal, And it went well beyond the brand of the car. Like, I wasn't just buying these vehicles because they had some badge on it. These were some these were beautiful cars. Love driving them, the power output, the way that they handled. I mean, I just loved the feeling, the power of these vehicles. But it came at a cost. And it was a cost that I could not afford to cough up every month. This cost compromised my own personal financial freedom. So I would work my 9 to 5, working 40, 50 hours a week, because I would usually take the overtime whenever overtime was available. And any and extra money above and beyond my bills would go toward more and more liabilities. These liabilities came in the form of, buying cars I couldn't afford, carrying car payments I couldn't afford to pay. Nowadays, I think that the average car payment is somewhere around $700-800 a month. Some people are, with $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 car payments. It's crazy. And it's nothing wrong with that if you can afford that, if that's a part of your game plan. But for me, it was not in alignment with my income. I couldn't afford to spend what I was spending on these cars. And I came to the realization that I cannot continue to do this, buying clothing, unnecessary clothes on a regular basis, expensive clothes. Today I'm wearing, I don't even know if this t-shirt costs $5. I probably paid less than $5 because I will buy a pack of Hanes t-shirts and that's my daily wear. Now, I'm not telling people how to dress or anything like that. And of course, if I want to dress it up, I have nicer clothes to wear. But I realize that 90% of my income, 95% of my income, actually nearly 100% of my income was going toward making other companies wealthy. My income literally went to car payments, credit card bills, leisure activities, clothing, restaurants. So I was literally funding the economy through a lack of a plan and a lack of direction. Financial freedom was nowhere in sight. And, depending upon who you hang out with, it makes it harder to make a change in your life. But it got to a point for me that I realized what was more important. Is it more important to maintain a facade, keeping up with the Joneses, or is it more important to build wealth? And if my friends didn't quite understand what I was trying to do, then maybe I had to reevaluate who my friends were. So, it took a long time to get to the point where I just decided, hey, I got to make a change. And once I did, I began to sell everything. I sold everything. Just sell it all. Craigslist, eBay, when my mom had a garage sale, I was selling my own personal items. I was getting out of debt. I was eliminating all these liabilities out of my life once I realized how detrimental it was for me. And I hope that I'm reaching people who may have actually experienced something like this, where you just realize, hey, I can't save money because I don't have any money left over to save. I can't invest $1,000 on anything because I don't have $1,000 to invest, right? Choices that we make can help us or they can hurt us. And thankfully, I realized that, hey, I've been making a lot of dumb decisions. I'm buying stuff I can't afford. And when I say you can't afford it, meaning, can you afford to live the lifestyle that you're living and also propel your life forward financially? I couldn't afford to do both. So that meant for me, I couldn't afford to buy. I couldn't afford to drive the cars. I couldn't afford the lifestyle that I was living at the time. It was so detrimental to me that I could not invest in my company 401k. So I was missing out on free money that my employer was handing out. Employer matching, of the 401ks. You guys understand what that is, missing out on the compound gains of the different index funds and mutual funds that were in that 401k that could have compounded whatever money I put in, whatever money I invested in, at the rate of whatever the S&P 500 growth rate was at the time. Missed out on all those compound interest opportunities. My return on investment was negative every month, every year. I was investing in liabilities. And it took me longer to make the decision to turn that whole situation around because I was worried about what everyone else was going to think of me. Rather than not caring about their thoughts, but caring about the direction that my life was headed. And unfortunately, a lot of people, they fall victim to this. They're so worried about what everyone else is going to think of them. What are they going to say if I do this? What are they going to say if they see me driving this? What are they going to say if they see me wearing this? Is it really that important? I mean, me personally, if I saw a friend deciding to sell something that's nice, I'm probably going to ask them, why are they doing that? But at the same time, if they told me, hey, I can't afford this thing, it's holding me back, it's holding me down, I'm going to encourage them to sell that item. Why front? Why front? Why? Technically, a car, as long as it works, is doing the exact same thing as anything else. Technically, clothing, as long as it keeps you warm and keeps your body covered, it's doing the same thing as anything else. Now, granted, there's different levels of which, different features that a car might have, different performance factors and variables. A certain type of fabric might feel better than another or might fit better. But at the end of the day, these things, these are not requirements. And if they're holding you back, you got to recognize that. It is easier. It has never been easier to begin the process of building wealth here in America. Starting from zero. And if you look at me, I started with negative zero. I started with a negative figure. There is no such thing as negative zero. But you guys understand where I'm coming from. At any given point in time, you could open up a Betterment account and begin investing. M1 Finance, Webull, Chase, JP Morgan Chase, Merrill Lynch, Charles Schwab. There's so many different apps that can be downloaded in a matter of seconds on our smartphones. 99% of the viewers watching me have a Samsung smartphone or an iPhone with a data plan. We've got access to the internet. We could be downloading these apps at any point in time and setting up automatic contributions to buy our favorite ETFs and index funds and start the wealth building process immediately. But it may take some sacrifice. And the question is, are you willing to make the sacrifice today for a future, for a tomorrow that is filled with freedom of time, Because more important than anything else is the time factor. How many people don't have enough vacation time, don't have enough sick time to spend time with their family? And this is one of the major reasons behind a lot of the sacrifices I made years ago. I looked at how little time I had available for my family because I was spending so much of my time obligated to a job. And the job obligations was mainly due to the decisions that I was making, which kept me on the wheel, which kept me in the rat race. And I realized that the more assets that I bought that were increasing in value and appreciating over time, the more assets that I bought that were paying dividends or paying some type of monthly income off of the assets that I owned, the more assets that I owned, the sooner that these assets would be able to generate enough passive income to cover my living expenses. You see, I never really wanted to retire early just to sit around and do nothing. I wanted to be able to retire early so that I had the option to retire early, not that I necessarily wanted to just, do nothing. See, having the ability to retire early changes the perspective that you have on life. Like, just think about it for a second, right? Like, if you could retire early and your boss was pissing you off or there were layoffs taking place at your job, would it really matter? It's like you just say to yourself, well, I don't really need this. And so the stress would automatically just go away. Like, stress would never even likely form if you knew for a fact that, hey, I just work because I choose to, not because I have to. And there's a big difference. And when I realized that, I began looking at all sorts of ways to increase my income through side hustles, creating home-based businesses, small businesses, e-commerce stores, creating digital assets that could later produce future passive income for me and for my family. Because I realized that at some point, as long as I traded time for money, I would never be free. So I just wanted to share some of these insights with you guys because, I'm getting more and more comments from people saying, I got a comment the other day. A guy was driving I want to say, I can't remember what year. It was a 4Runner. And he was saying that he was delinquent, or he was delinquent on multiple credit card bills. The credit card companies were coming after him. He has a 4Runner that he's 2 months behind on the car payment. And I hope the guy is watching this video. Maybe he can correct me on some of the details. And it seemed like he didn't quite know what to do. He also mentioned that his wife was no longer working. I don't know if that was by choice or if she got laid off or what. I don't remember the detail on that. But just think about it. Like, all of that stress could be eliminated through sacrifice, planning, and of course, taking action. So I just want to continue to provide whatever kind of experience and financial motivation that I can share with you guys, because coming from someone who has so much debt, it was almost embarrassing how much debt I had. But just coming from that and then just realizing that all of that could be turned around for the better. So I just want to share some of these experiences with you guys. Guys, drop me some comments down below. Let me know what you guys are thinking. Let me know what you guys are seeing. Does any of this resonate with you guys? By the way, if you're new to the channel, please drop a like for the video. Also consider subscribing. Thanks for hanging out with me today. And I will see you guys on the next one. Be safe.